Welcome to another episode of the Refined Peasants podcast. I'm Wyatt.
I'm Garrett.
I'm Nick.
Alright, let's get after it. Alright, and welcome to our 10th episode special. Today we're talking about the topic of police brutality and whether or not police have too much power in America. And before we get into that, the Chauvin Trial is going on right now. And we have decided not to cover the trial until the trial is over. But do we have any opinions on what the verdict, what we're thinking it might be?
I'll let you two go first. But
Okay.
I'm just going to add to that. I don't find it... What's the word I'm looking for here, Wyatt? I don't know what to say. I'm totally lost. I had a thought and it's gone.
I hate when that happens.
Yeah, I'm thinking the most they can probably get him is second-degree murder or manslaughter. That's all I can think they can get him on.
Yeah, so it's second-degree manslaughter, second-degree unintentional murder, which is possible.
It's possible.
It's a pretty easy burden of proof, and then the third-degree murder, that's a pretty high degree of proof.
Yeah.
So we're not sure, and they don't have to. It's not like an all or nothing. They can get them for 2 out of the 3 or 1 out of the 3.
Yeah.
And then acquit them on the other ones. So it's possible.
I feel like no matter what, there's going to be riots no matter what the outcome's going to be.
Well, my personal opinion is I think the two most likely possibilities is that I could see him getting convicted for second-degree manslaughter, or it's a hung jury. So I don't think he's going to get acquitted. So you need 12 juries to find not guilty to be acquitted. You need 12 jurors to all agree to convict. But a hung jury is the one where 11 agree, but one is like, nah, y'all can fuck off. I disagree with you entirely. Whichever way they're going. And I think a hung jury here is really likely. Because I've seen evidence from the trial going both ways. Really most of the evidence has one person backing prosecution and then another witness backing defense.
Yeah, it just comes down to
who's more swayful.
Who do you trust more as your source of information? That's going to be what comes down to it. Nick, how many of the charges do you think will stick? Out of the 3.
Out of the 3, I see second-degree manslaughter and second-degree murder are going to be most likely to stick. They're probably not going to get him third degree.
Okay, so you're thinking 2 out of the 3?
2 out of 3.
Okay. I'm with you. It wouldn't shock me if they didn't get him for the second-degree unintentional murder.
It wouldn't, but if they just get him for the second-degree manslaughter.
Yeah. But I think they can definitely get him for both. What do you think? We'll talk about the riots after this.
I honestly, my strongest inclination is hung jury.
So 0 for 3.
0 for 3. I don't think you're going to get him on nothing.
All right. Well, in that case, what do you think will happen after, riot-wise? Considering that they're rioting now.
Yeah, so they're rioting now because of
Daunte Wright.
Daunte Wright, sorry. Which was, if you guys haven't been watching the news because you live in a fucking cave, he's an African-American shot by a female cop in Minneapolis, shot in the back. There's video of it. I think you can see it on YouTube. But it's an arrest. He attempts to flee. She draws her sidearm. And now, what's important is you can hear, it's not super important, but she thinks she's drawn her taser. So when she pulls it out, she says, taser, taser.
We'll get into the specifics of the scenario, but just for the Chauvin trial, you think riots or no?
Oh, yeah. So even if they convict him on just second-degree manslaughter, I think there's going to be riots. Because I think people are going to feel like that wasn't enough.
Yeah.
And so second-degree manslaughter, he's still going to go to jail.
Yeah.
He's never going to be able to be a cop again. It's not felon. I don't think manslaughter is a felony.
I have no idea, but
I don't know. I would have to look.
But
I mean, he's never gonna be a cop again. Which not saying that's a just enough punishment. Just because you're never gonna work in stocks again doesn't eliminate the fact that you stole millions from elderly people. You know what I'm saying? But I think the riots are gonna happen, really, unless they convict him on all 3. I think there's going to be... Minneapolis is going to burn. And, so the word on the street in Minneapolis is they're preparing. They're boarding up windows, and, you think you can't buy ammunition in the rest of the United States.
That jury better not get leaked. Because they get leaked, and
they've already been leaked.
Have they been leaked?
Yeah. Are you serious? Their names?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they've been doxxed. Yeah, it's pretty
That is
Holy
terrible.
It's not incredible. So these people aren't being held in like private places. Like they're going home after the trial, and basically for the past like 9 days of the trial, the defense attorney for Chauvin has basically tried to get him acquitted, based on like mistrial stuff. Like
so not
jury.
acquitted, but a mistrial.
Yeah. Well, they're trying to sequester the jury, which means like get a new jury, and it's not. The judge is like, no, this jury is fine.
This jury's as good as you're gonna get in America. This is as high a profile case as O.J. Simpson.
Yeah.
Like,
The problem is, I feel like if they don't give him a harsh enough sentence, imagine if they come for that jury. For like your name's doxed, like your doxed, everything about you is leaked.
So a jury doesn't decide sentencing. That'll be the judge. I'm not worried about if they convict him.
They convict him on certain degree, and if they say he's guilty on just say second degree manslaughter, and the other two he's not.
Well,
imagine the backlash they.
So if they convict him, Chauvin's definitely gonna appeal. Yeah. And then the court, they don't get a new jury. The court above it is just gonna say whether or not it was a mistrial or whether it was a fair trial.
Yeah, because it'd be the Minnesota Court of Appeals, right?
And and if the like, assuming the judge like has said several times that this jury is fine, it's not going to change the outcome either way. So, any other thoughts on the Chauvin trial? We'll cover that. That'll be an entire podcast.
Yeah, we're going to do a whole thing on it. I just don't feel comfortable talking about it.
Closing it.
They'll conclude their closing arguments are next week.
Yeah, I think
so. Within 2 weeks.
Yeah,
and we're going to be we normally record these like one podcast in advance. We're going to be doing a special podcast next week just to cover the Chauvin trial because it's going to be such a big deal.
Right.
I mean, no matter what happens, there's going to be riots, and then there's going to be the trial itself to cover. Now, I know at least Wyatt and I have been watching at least parts of the trial, and we've heard some of what they've heard. Nick, have you been following it
I've been following bits and pieces of it, mostly from what y'all have talked about.
It's hard not to have seen bits and pieces at this point.
Yeah.
Honestly, in America. I mean, that's all that's on the news.
I don't watch the news. I just...
Fair enough. Okay, well, but today's discussion, we wanted to stay close to the police
Y'all just want to roll into that girl,
in America?
The girl who shot the...
Yeah, you can go ahead and explain the Daunte Wright scenario.
Okay,
so
where was this at again? I can't remember exactly.
Brooklyn Center, Minnesota.
So it's a suburb of Minneapolis or something?
It's actually, the actual shooting took place less than 10 miles from the courthouse where Derek Chauvin is having his trial right now.
So...
That's how close it is.
So, in case anyone doesn't know, I can't remember, what did they pull him over for?
Expired tags.
Yeah, it was rather an expired tag, and then they pulled up his tag, and they saw there was
He had a warrant for his arrest.
Yeah, an expired... Well, he didn't pay the fine on a previous charge, so there's a warrant out for his arrest.
No, he broke probation on it.
Yeah. So not paying fines...
By owning a firearm.
Oh, that's what it was.
Yeah, he owned an illegal firearm, broke probation, and then the warrant still wasn't issued until he quit making contact with his probation officer. So the judge issued a warrant.
Okay.
So they pull him over, and he's resisting arrest, and so the lady pulls out what she thinks is her taser. All right, that's fine and dandy. She really pulls out her pistol. She pulls out her sidearm. She puts it up for I can't remember how long she had it to him. He goes to drive off. She goes, taser, 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 and shoots him. It's not her taser. She clearly knows she's messed up. You can see it in the body cam footage. She's like, I just shot this guy. I didn't mean to.
Yeah.
And then you look at the taser. So for conclusion, so the same PD that she works for, they showed a picture of the pistol and the taser. The taser is 4 times lighter than the pistol, and it's also bright yellow.
So a pistol is like dark black. Clearly looks like a pistol, and
it's like
taser
it's like a 9mm.
Looks like
an electric
a gun from Halo in bright yellow.
Yeah.
So they're very different. Like y'all won't see it, but essentially, like the grip doesn't just stop here; it goes all the way around. You actually put your whole hand inside the trigger.
Oh, so it's like a sword guard.
Yes.
Yeah. And the weird part, so the taser that it is, it's one of those where you have to be standing. You're supposed to be standing back and shoot it. It's not like one of those like handheld ones. You can tase someone. No.
Yeah, it shoots the wires out.
Yeah,
That's
so
how most of them
you're
are.
supposed to be at a distance to where they can effectively go in better.
Yeah, because they pick up velocity. It's not like a bullet.
Yeah, and then so that happened. So I talked to one of my friends at work. He used to work in law enforcement, and he goes, to keep the simplest, you keep your taser on your off hand, your pistol's on your draw hand.
Like your dominant hand.
Your
Whether
dominant
or not you're
hand.
right or left-handed, it's on your dominant side?
Yes, whichever hand you shoot with on a daily. And he goes, the only way you can mistake a taser for a pistol is when your taser is fully kitted out with. And it can feel similarly heavy. If it's full kitted out, it's got a... I can't remember what he said. It has like a certain
Battery
thing.
pack.
Basically, it's full kitted out. It can weigh similar to a pistol, but it's awkward. It's more awkward than a pistol is.
Mm-hmm.
He goes, you can't really mistake it at all. This lady's a 26-year-old veteran for the police station. 10 of those years, she worked training police officers.
Wait, so 26-year veteran, not 26 years old?
She's not 26 years old, but she's she's done this 26 years. 10 of which...
Wow.
Combined military service, because she's a vet.
Yes.
And police service.
10
wow.
of those years, she spent training cops in this. I could get, if this was her first day on the job, accident or something, you've done this 26 years, 10 of which you've trained people, no, you know the difference. You know which side is which.
So, I'm going to, I think it was an honest mistake, which does not mean there shouldn't be any punishment. So, she's already resigned from the police department, and she's probably going to be convicted of, I'm not sure they ever brought charges against her, but she's almost certainly, you can't accidentally draw your sidearm and shoot somebody. Like, again, if you've done... I didn't know she'd done it for 26 years. That's crazy. I assumed, she doesn't look that old in her picture, but I assumed she had just joined the force, maybe fresh out of...
I think her name is Kim Potter.
I have no idea.
I think
I don't remember.
Maybe we shouldn't dox people on our podcast, but...
Yeah.
It's out there.
Yeah, it's public news now.
Her name is.
But... Like I said, I really think it was an honest mistake. I don't think she intended to kill him. But
See,
that doesn't
matter to me.
Yeah, that doesn't matter. Like, she should be tried and she probably should be convicted.
It's like if I think this gun over here is a BB gun and I shoot Garrett and I kill him, I'm still going to jail for manslaughter.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So if you were... And that's what gets me. So, like, if you were at a party and you thought you had an unloaded gun and you just pulled the trigger just messing around with your friends and you killed somebody... It was an accident. You didn't mean to kill anybody. But you still were negligent with a firearm and it got somebody killed.
Yeah.
Like, you have to be punished for that. I'm sorry.
No, and I don't disagree with you at all. Like, no. This is just going to the more... Like, I don't think this woman's a racist. I don't think she went out trying to kill nobody. I don't think she's full of malice or hatred or anything like that. I think it was a mistake on her part. But as a 26-year veteran of the law enforcement agency, you cannot make mistakes like that. And you do. You've got to be better.
Yeah.
You cannot. That's unacceptable.
Okay.
And you should face the consequences of that mistake. If I make the mistake of turning left when I was supposed to turn right on a highway and I end up hitting somebody, like, I still get a ticket. Like, it was an accident, but like I don't think there's any qualms about whether or not this lady should be punished. I think the intent is what's...
So I don't think she intended to do this. She clearly said taser, thinking she had her taser. She did not. She ended up killing this man.
She fucked up and she got him killed.
Like,
well, what cop in Minneapolis in their right mind is going to go out and purposefully shoot a black dude in the middle of the Chauvin trial? Like, you have to be the stupidest person on the planet to do that on purpose.
It's not It's not like cops are intellectuals in our society.
Wow.
No, he's not wrong. There are people.
This is backed by data. Unfortunately,
I got kids that I went to high school with that are trying to become cops now. They're not dumb, but I wouldn't trust them with a gun.
Yeah,
I wouldn't.
I know a couple of cops, and they're fine people, but
they're the most. They're all irrational.
The standard should probably be
a little higher,
a little bit higher.
So, what do you propose? Like, well, we'll get to it at some point. So,
I guess we'll start with this, since we just went over that case. Do we think that there's a problem in general with police in America?
I can't.
Systemic racism?
Statistically, no.
Oh.
Sorry, I'm
Okay.
a little slow. If you go by data, no, it's not an epidemic. It's not not as big as a problem as people think it is. It's still a problem. Yes, one accidental death is too many. I don't think anyone here would disagree with that. One innocent person dying, too many.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not as big of a problem as people think it is.
Yeah, I could back that. I mean, Bureau of Justice has it put at like, I think 400 not unarmed, but unprompted casualties between 2013 and 2018.
Now, what is a problem is the cops usually don't face any criminal justice for it.
Yeah, that's the thing. With
They get a lot of people get off scot-free for it.
The accountability
Is not there.
for cops is not there.
Oh, yeah. I thought y'all were going to try to get me, but we can totally agree. Like, cops need to be held accountable.
So, I'll talk about this. There's a family in Colorado.
Wait, hold on. Before we get to that.
We want to do that later?
No, we can
Blue balled me twice now about this family in Colorado.
You'll get it. They're
I
called
need to hear
They're
it.
called the McCormicks.
Okay.
And their son dies every episode.
Oh, okay.
Well, so I don't necessarily think it's a race issue. Maybe like most people. I mean, if you talk to black people, they will tell you straight up they think that it's a race issue.
Statistically, white people are more likely to get shot by cops. If you go by
per capita,
that is a fair statement. If you go by per capita, I bet it's blacks.
it is blacks.
Is it?
Yes,
By what?
absolutely.
Do you know the percentages at all?
Yeah, I do actually.
Oh, let's see.
So 13% of the population, 25% of the police deaths, unarmed police deaths too.
So this
These
is
are dudes
okay.
who are not guilty, right? Because they're unarmed.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So, whites, 62% of the population, 44%, and then it just had other on the FBI statistics like table. So I don't necessarily see it as a race issue, and what I mean by that is, so black communities may be hit harder than white communities, but that's because of over-policing more than it is the cops themselves being racist.
They account for more police interactions
True.
than their population would suggest. And part of that is, so African American males commit 50% of the violent crime in America. And they're only, 13% of the population?
13%.
So half of the 7.5% are African American males commit 50% of the violent crime. If that's the statistic in your demographic, you're going to have more interactions with police.
Well, violent crime is also a minority of crime. Most crime is like drug possession. So blacks and whites smoke weed at the same rate, basically. It's a minuscule, it's within 1%. But black people are over twice as likely to be put in jail for it, for drug possession. This is not like, with intent to sell. This is not cartel stuff. This is just drug possession.
They had an ounce of weed in their pocket.
And that to me is just crazy.
Well, I think locking up people for possessing drugs, like especially marijuana,
Well,
if you got I don't know what the measurements are for cocaine, but if you got a substantial amount of cocaine, okay, maybe we should lock you up for that because no good comes from cocaine.
It's a kilo.
God damn, that's a lot of cocaine.
That's a lot of cocaine.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're fixing to get into specifics.
Oh, you want to talk about why blacks are usually more likely to go to jail for drug war by Richard Nixon.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
His
This
vice
is a
president. I
systemic
can't
thing.
remember the exact quote, but the whole reason for the drug war was to. So Nixon did, after Lyndon B. Johnson did the whole civil rights movement. Nixon came in. He didn't like that because they were more likely to vote Democrat. So he thought, if we get them on felonies, they can't vote. So he did the whole drug war. And his vice president specifically said it was meant to target black areas.
Man, I would love to see that. Like, if that's true.
I can't say it because it has a certain word with a hard R in there that his vice president said.
Well, yeah, don't say it. I'm just saying, like, if you could pull up the quote for me to look at, that'd be fantastic.
It's insane. The drug war was pretty unanimously put in there to lock up blacks and Mexicans.
See, that's crazy to
To
me.
keep them from voting. Because now, after the Civil Rights Act, shocker, you vote for the party that gave you civil rights, Like,
women didn't.
I wouldn't be able to tell you who gave them the right to vote. I wouldn't be able to tell you which party.
Well,
Woodrow Wilson right? That's around that time. Anyway, whatever. But that was not quite as big a deal, I'm sure, as the blacks, because even like women, just white women, got the right to vote in 1920. Black women couldn't vote until the 60s almost.
Yeah.
You know, Native Americans couldn't vote until the 70s. Period.
Well, Native Americans
in any
also,
election.
Native Americans
Any
also
election.
have their own sovereign government stuff.
You want to hear the quote? It's by John. Why don't you say that last name? Because I can't.
Where does it say that?
Right there.
Oh, Ehrlichman.
Ehrlichman. This is the quote. If I can find this. He goes, you understand what I'm saying. We knew we couldn't make it illegally to be either against the war or the black. But by getting the public to associate the hippies with marijuana and the blacks with heroin, and then criminalizing both heavily, we could disrupt both those communities. So it proved that their whole intention was to hit the black community and the hippie community heavily with, well, if we make it associated that these two groups use this drug the most, and then we make it heavily criminalized, no one's going to bat an eye. No one's going to care.
Because then it's just them breaking the law and
Yeah.
not suppression.
No.
See, that's fucked up.
That is fucked.
Like, I can
The problem is, the war on drugs is still going on.
Yeah.
Like, you want to talk about systemic racism? That's an example of systemic racism right there. Like, I'm not super big, and like the whole system today is systemically racist. But the drug war, just point to that, and if they don't understand.
Well, so like
Then-
white people do methamphetamine way more than any other community, like, and opioids.
Whites are more likely to do harder narcotics.
Whites are also less likely to go to prison for drug use than blacks.
See, I think we've talked about this before, because it's something about, like, the courts are like, well, we got to make an example because drugs are more relevant in this community, or crime
Right.
is higher in this community.
Right.
So we make an example out of you, hoping that people will see the example and not follow in those footsteps. And that's bad.
Yeah.
Like, now, the problem with that is we give judges free reign on sentencing. Like, you have a limit, like, so for manslaughter, it's like 15 to 25 years. But a judge can pick
Anywhere
amount
in
between that. And
He can pick less than 15 if he does it. Like, you can do, like, 10 years if you wanted to. And then,
Like 5 community with probation or something like that.
Yeah,
Okay.
they can do the years however they want. They can do like 20 years, but at 10 years you can have
Judges do have a lot of power.
They do.
Yeah.
It's like most people think it's the jury that does sentencing. No, it's the judge.
My problem with that is, though, then, like, you're putting it on the judges that they're apparently racist.
No, it's
They're immoral.
no, it's
Yeah, and
it's
I
not
know
so much them. It's they have to carry out the legislation that was there, right? If it's illegal to rob banks, you can't get mad at the judge for sentencing you for robbing a bank. You know what I'm saying? Like if
But the problem is they're
Drugs
getting
are
sentenced.
illegal.
They're getting sentenced longer for drugs,
right, and it well,
So that is the judges.
that is the judges, and
But it's also
that's a problem. We gotta
But I don't
figure
understand.
out how
Like,
to
so
combat that.
we've both agreed, like, judges are probably the most moral people in our.
Right, but that still doesn't mean that they're perfect and immune from bias.
So they're racist.
Not
Who
racist.
said they're
like-
racist?
I mean, if you're sentencing black people to longer sentences than white people, wouldn't that make you racist?
I don't know. So you're looking at this too much like on an individual basis, right? It's not so much that one judge is sentencing black people to like 5 years, but sentencing white people to like 3. Now it's the system as a whole is sentencing black people disproportionately to harsher sentences than their white counterparts
For the same crime.
for identical
Right.
crimes.
Identical crime.
See,
Yes.
that's. And now, does this
Well, you
take
can-
into account prior
Now,
convictions?
when you think
Yes.
about that as well, okay, so like blacks are more likely to get a harsher sentence than whites. But also, the same crime, women are likely to get a less sentence than men.
Right.
Yeah.
That
So,
does work in a bunch
usually-
of different ways.
Usually, men get a harsher sentence because they're usually made more example of. The thinking is men can handle
I think it's
prison
just-
better than women.
I think it's because judges are less sympathetic towards men. Like, you know,
Yeah.
to be honest,
right.
like,
So I'm not necessarily sure that it's
and
racism.
I
but
guess
it's
I
a
guess
bias
I
of
guess
some
it'll go
sorts.
in also a case. Is this first guy's offense, or is this his 15th time he's done this? He's
Right.
come to court for
Right.
this. So there's probably a lot more variables than we're looking at. It's probably not just clear cut.
racism.
Right.
Yeah, it's
but-
like, well, this guy, why'd you give him 15 years for this guy 10 years? Well, he done this 15 other times.
Right.
Right.
So
Clearly, the first time didn't work. The first 14.
Right, like my whole thing is like it seems really like it goes against my better judgment to say, okay, these judges are racist.
Mm-hmm.
Because, and that doesn't mean like my better judgment's correct. I feel like it is. I don't think judges are racist predominantly. I'm sure there's probably some old Joe Biden aged judges out there that are still sticking to Jim Crow, but like I really don't see it as a systemic problem. The outcomes point to something being there, though. Just like the outcomes between men and women sentencing point to them having more sympathy towards women, which is ridiculous because hell hath no fury like a woman scorned. Like, don't piss off women; they get mean.
But yeah, Nick, the drug war is a very good example of
It is a good job.
systemic racism. Here's a weird one that I thought. So in Minneapolis, Minneapolis is like huge, like the actual like city limits. It's massive. You are 30% more likely to be pulled over for a traffic violation if you're black. And let me ask, do y'all really think that they're 30% worse at driving? Like, is that a real thing? Or is something else possibly going on?
There's other things going on. I'm not saying they're 30% worse at driving. So you'd have to look at the population of the inner city of Minneapolis.
Well, it's per capita.
The neighborhoods they're getting pulled over in.
Okay.
I'd want to know what the gang violence level is.
But it's just pure traffic violations, and that's what I don't understand. Is like, well, are they really 30% worse?
When
drivers?
is it though? Because it could be a quota thing. Like it's at the end of the month they just need to pour out, and blacks clearly a higher percentage in
so
Minneapolis.
it is an inner city population.
And
right.
Like
I've driven through going to work one day, and there was 15 cops sitting there coming into a town because it was end of the month. It's quota time. It's end of the year.
Yeah.
It's time for quota, and they were pulling over everyone for this minute thing. I saw 5 people pulled over for just simple not doing. I guess they didn't use a turn signal or something.
And you're gonna get a ticket.
Yeah.
Right.
So I don't know if the rest of the country knows about this, but we live in Oklahoma, and the running joke is cops got a quota. They gotta write so many tickets every month, and I don't think any cop would tell you that it's true. But it sure seems true because a lot of tickets get written at the end of the month.
No, I saw one guy get pulled over and he did nothing. He used his turn signal, used the lane right, pulled him over for nothing, for absolutely nothing. Like this guy did nothing wrong. Used his turn signal, turned in. There was no traffic coming. Just turned. The cop just went whoop whoop, pulled all the way around. I looked at him like that's end of November, quota time.
It's quota time. Yep.
I wait for them to leave and pull someone else over before I go. Because I know I'll get pulled over for something.
There you go.
Because my back lights are a little fogged up.
So, to your point, though, are you saying, like, the cops in Minneapolis have a racial bias, then?
I'm saying it could be.
I mean, I'd want to look at the
They've got a bias of some sort. Something's causing the discrepancy. We don't know what it is. We should at least have, the free mind to ask what it could be. And I don't think we should ever shut down the discussion of like, no, that's just what it is.
Which is part of the problem because people are wanting to shut down the discussion and say, no, it's racism.
It definitely works both ways.
Yeah, it definitely does work.
For some reason, it's become partisan, and it doesn't make any sense.
Well, everything's become partisan.
Right, and that's
every aspect of your life has become partisan.
Yep.
But
it may not be. Racial bias, but it's a bias of something, and cops don't want us to look into what it might be. There hasn't been a deep dive in like policing in this country since the Nolan Fryer study in the 90s, and that's what sponsored it was because of the crime bill that Clinton did. And what they found is that police are beating the shit out of people for non-violent crimes. Is what they found out. And that's the last time we've done it. Since then, getting public funding for police studies nationwide, it's impossible. Can't be done.
I wonder if the unions have something to do with that.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That's one thing we need to talk about. So, if you've watched the podcast, you know I'm not a heavy union guy anyway, but my little brothers might actually agree with me that police unions are a fucking problem.
Yeah.
Because
they protect a lot of bad cops.
Yeah.
They do.
So when you get
that's it. They protect a lot of good cops, but they also protect those bad cops.
Mm-hmm. Right, and they protect them to the same level. So it's like a lawyer.
Yeah.
Like, a lawyer protects the guy who actually killed 12 people just as much as he's going to protect the guy who is accused but didn't do it,
Mm-hmm.
So the unions, it makes it really hard to get rid of a cop.
Yeah.
Like in about body cam footage, obviously, is helping convict dirty cops or corrupt cops or whatever.
What was it? Why you said you wanted cops to go on a registry, so that way if they are convicted, they'll never work at it.
So
my buddy actually advocates that.
So I want to talk about the solutions towards the end, but first I want to establish that there is at least a little bit of a problem at first. Right?
Oh, most definitely.
I mean, so there at least appears to be some kind of problem. And again, I'm not going to say that it's because I don't think cops are racist on the.
I don't think it's a race problem in general. I think it's a power problem.
Yeah, and that is I'm much more inclined to.
You want to hear something?
And that's my personal opinion, is that I don't think it's as much of a race thing. I don't know how many people are driving around racist cops anymore. I really don't.
No.
But I think it's a power problem. I think they would...
So, there was when Hurricane Katrina that hit New Orleans.
Yeah.
Well, there's been a lot that hit
New Orleans. So, when Katrina hit, they evacuated everybody. This old lady, who's never evacuated, all the cops know her, and they said, oh, she'll be fine. So, they called another... So, LAPD was there. I don't know why.
Reinforcements, I assume.
That's what I thought. And they came in and said, man,
LA Los Angeles? Or LA Louisiana?
Los Angeles.
Okay.
Los Angeles.
Same LA.
Yeah, sorry, sir. Los Angeles police, they were there, I guess, for reinforcements. There were a bunch of other places there. And so they told her, ma'am, you need to leave. She said, no, I'm fine. I got my sand wall. I'll be good. They said, ma'am, you're leaving. And they forced her to leave. They bruised her. I think they broke her arm. And then when they put her in the cop car, took her away, they walked into her house, took all her guns, and the Louisiana cops came and said, what are you doing? They said, well, these are illegal in California. They go, they're legal here.
You can get fucked, California.
And so the chief of police came up there and said, we don't advocate this. She's going to get paid the damages that it was caused, and it's not going to be Louisiana that's paying. It's going to be California.
Good.
California. Good. I agree.
So the guy who came up, he goes, what are you doing? And they told her, we evacuated this lady. He goes, why? She's fine where she's at. She was completely fine. She does this. This isn't her first rodeo with this. Everyone knows she's fine. We'll call her if she calls us if something's wrong. Left the door open. Her dog got loose in the middle of a hurricane.
Yeah.
Just completely violated her rights. Had no warrant. Nothing. And they just drug her out of her house.
I mean, that's kidnapping.
And one of the guys is like 6'3", 250 pounds. And he's just manhandling this old woman. She got bruised ribs, had to go to the hospital to get this fixed. It's like, really?
So there's a couple different scenarios in which case I'm okay with just like calling out that bullshit and not wait. Like, so typically I'm going to be the guy that's like, okay, let's wait and find out the full story. But if I see you manhandle an 80-year-old woman as a 26-year-old man, you're just a cunt.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care who you are. Okay, or these cops that like, so there's been a couple here in Oklahoma, but you hear about them and they'll pull up over a pretty girl, and they'll be like, well, I'm gonna have to write you a ticket, maybe arrest you unless and then like, okay, you're just a cunt, and you need to be fired. Like, I'm not waiting to hear the rest of that story. If I've got video, so it was during the BLM riots, and I get the BLM riots were, trust me, I am a big like these fucking riots were bullshit, but there's a cop who knocked over a 70-something-year-old man.
It was in Buffalo, New York. This cop, he's trying to give him the helmet, right? It's his old man trying to give him like a helmet that one of the officers...
No, that maybe, I don't know.
Well, it's this old man with like a baton, or this young, big, strong dude, looks like The Rock, with a baton, and he just, boom, and the dude falls flat on his head, bleeds from the head, and they did nothing. They didn't help him. There was no call for ambulance. That man lied there for 20 minutes before they got help called.
See, and that's fucking ridiculous. And you are a grown-ass man threatened by a 70-something-year-old man?
And nothing happened to him.
That's chicken shit.
And that's the thing.
Now, obviously,
there's no accountability.
If the elderly person walked up to you with a pistol... That's the great equalizer.
But that's not what happened.
But that's not what happened.
No,
I'm just saying, like, in almost all cases, if I see a cop manhandling a fucking elderly person, I'm like, what's the fucking need for that?
Well, okay,
what?
So the point is,
why?
You can't force people to evacuate. You can.
Yeah.
If people don't want to leave, you can't force them to. And that was what the whole
in California you can.
That was the whole big thing of this was, she was fine. Everyone knew she was fine. All the police knew she was fine. And they're like, no, we're forcing you to leave. And then they walked into her house, took all her guns. Took all of them. And there was a huge lawsuit about that.
I can't
remember.
Sue the shit out of you.
I would too.
It's like, and then she was on the news, and she goes, yeah, they just came in. I said, no. She said, no, I'm fine. This isn't my first time doing this. Next thing I know, this 6'3" guy's grabbing me, throwing me out of my house, and just put me in a cop car.
So
with handcuffs, he's like arresting her.
So this one will really give you a scope of like how much these guys, like not just police but departments in general, are not held accountable. Nick, would you like to finally tell the story from Colorado?
Okay.
Because this is amazing.
Okay.
The fact that this I just want to remind everybody, this actually happened and you can go look it up. This is amazing.
I can't remember the exact family's name, but there was a family in Colorado. The dad was renting the house to the son. The son, the whole family went out to go buy new furniture for this house, because they're renovating it. They want to make it look nicer. While they're gone, this felon was getting chased by police. He goes and breaks into the house, and he holds up in their house. So the cops get there, SWAT team gets there, and essentially they do a Waco. They're punching holes in the house, pouring in tear gas. They're shooting 40mm grenades. They're throwing explosives in there.
Really quick, if you don't know what 40mm shells look like, they're about 2 fists. Right?
Yeah, about
grenades.
Yes, and just
for one guy.
Just wait, the story gets so much better.
So good news is, so they had 2 dogs. Dogs outside, thankfully, jumped the fence. Thank God, because they probably would have got shot. Because those dogs were trained, they don't know the person, they'll growl at them, and cops.
Just like shooting dogs.
Yeah. So the family gets out. This goes on for 19 hours. 19 hours. Family gets home, and the cops said they had to stand back, I think, a mile. They said, you can't come in here. There's an active felon. And they go, that's our house. They said, we don't care until we get him. And they're just destroying the house. And finally they get him. And they go in. The cops said, you can't go in your house. It's unsafe. It's unlivable.
It's declared unlivable.
There's holes. Like, if you ever seen Waco, it looks like Waco. Yes. There's holes in the house. And they said, we have to get our stuff. They said, no. Police put the tape around it saying, you step in your house, you're going to jail. It's going to be a misdemeanor. Second you step in that door. And so they go in. They finally are allowed back in the house to get all what's left, which is not very much.
It's not fucking destroyed.
And so
at least they went
the police department only gives them $5,000 in damages. Granted, they have to now bulldoze their house over because that house is unlivable. It's unsafe. They have to rebuild.
Right, so you can't live in it.
This is a $580,000 house.
It's at the point you can't even repair.
Yes.
Yeah, you have to start.
So the house
over.
is total.
Mm-hmm. $580,000 is how much this house was worth. Insurance gave them $354,000, which is lucky because insurance doesn't cover this. They cover fires and floods. They don't cover police took down my house.
Wow.
They took the police to court. It got all the way to the federal courts, and the federal courts sided with the police.
That's fucked. You come in and destroy my shit and then not pay for it?
No, they paid him $5,000, which was it. They didn't have to pay him that. They could
on a $580,000 fucking house.
Just to be clear, they could have paid them $0.
They could have paid. They said, out of the kindness of our hearts, we'll give you $5,000.
You can go get fucked.
Mm-hmm.
And for the guy has to go live with his the guy who rented it to his sons. They all have to go now live with his parents for days. And they get back, and they're finally allowed to go in there. And they said, by the way, we're gonna bulldoze your house now. Because we got to rebuild. He said, we can't afford it. They said, here's $5,000.
I mean, I would say it's a real crosswords to a cop.
So it's like...
And I get it's not the individual cop's fault, probably. But I'm going to have some fucking... I'm going to hire a good lawyer.
Yeah. They did. And they lost. They lost the federal courts.
Dude, see, that's chicken shit. That's absolute chicken shit.
Federal courts sided with the police department.
You burn down my fucking barn and you're going to pay for it. I don't care if there's a felon hiding in the hay.
Mm-hmm.
No,
I agree, but that's what I'm trying to get across is the level of immunity police have in America is way too much.
It is absurd,
and that's not even qualified immunity. That this was a department as a whole. This qualified immunity protects individual cops with a bigger shield than Section 230 on Twitter.
Yeah, what's that other case that just happened? It was the Army lieutenant.
Oh,
over.
Let's talk about.
Do you want to talk about
hang on.
this?
So Okay, you tell the story first, and then I'll tell what I said. Because qualified immunity is like going to protect the cops from the lawsuit.
Oh, absolutely it is.
Mm-hmm.
Because, I mean, you either got to get rid of qualified immunity.
Which I'm fine with.
Yeah. So, I'll explain what that is first. So, qualified immunity is like... So, civil cases and criminal cases against cops are no longer based upon laws and how you acted according to the book. They're now based on previous precedent in the courts. And if your scenario that you're being brought to court with isn't like extremely similar to a particular case, then you are declared immune. And that means that, so to give you an example, in the 1960s, a black man had surrendered, and he's face down on the pavement with his hands behind his back. He had clearly surrendered. They sent a cop after him, or sent a cop dog, like a K-9 unit. The Supreme Court's ruled in their favor, and they said, look, you clearly violated his rights. He had already surrendered. It was on camera. In the 60s, it was on camera. And later on, in the 2000s, the exact same case, this is after qualified immunity kicked in, they declared that it was not close enough to the case. And here was what they cited as the relevant difference. In the case from the 1960s, he was face down on the pavement. But in the 2000s case, he was on his knees with his hands in the air. And they said that's a relevant enough difference that this cop should be protected.
The unions said that?
No, this is the courts.
God damn.
Well, it's because of unions that we have qualified immunity.
Yeah.
They got it there.
God, you're making me hard to root for these courts now.
Yeah. So unless you do something so fucked up that a jury is going to convict you criminally, then there's nothing they can do, like, civilly.
Yeah, so you can't sue cops.
Yeah, you can't sue cops, period.
Well, that goes into this. What's the one guy that they swatted his house? Completely wrong house, too, and they shot him. He was on the ground.
So this is to prove it's not a white issue either. His name is Daniel Shaver. Red flag law in... I don't know what... Yeah.
Yeah, the only reason I fucking know about it is because they've been making fun of... What's his name? Oh, he's some late-night South African host on Comedy Central.
No, I know who
Trevor
you're talking
Noah?
about.
Trevor Noah,
Thank
yeah.
you.
But he comes like, yeah, everyone who's against red flag laws, they always cite this one case from like 20 years ago in Connecticut. And it's like, motherfucker, I got much more recent cases of red flag laws gone bad.
Okay, so let's explain. Does everyone know what swatting is?
It's basically whenever you call up.
So it's anyone who's live streamed, mostly on Twitch. It's a gaming studio. So what they'll do is they'll call the SWAT team and say, this guy's got a gun, he's got a hostage. SWAT team doesn't have to knock and tell you it's the SWAT team. They just kick open your door.
Yeah, if you've got a hostage, they can just...
And tons of people have died because of this. Because you kick open someone's door, they don't know who you are. Like, okay, so you kick my door open at 3 in the morning, and I don't know who you are, and you don't announce who you are, I'm coming out with a shotgun.
It's gotten like 10, 20-something people killed.
Recently.
Like,
wow.
Like it's becoming
so these Twitch streamers
popular.
are just a piece of shit.
Yeah.
No, it's not the streamers, it's the fan base. It's not even their fan base, it's just random people.
Random people will dox them, call the FBI, call the SWAT team, whoever, and they'll say they've got a hostage at so-and-so, and then they'll raid the house while the dude's on stream.
Mm-hmm.
That's fucking...
Oh, well, the people are definitely being held accountable. Right?
They should be.
But here's
not
what happened in the Daniel Shaver case.
Yeah.
In Daniel Shaver's case, someone called the cops, told them a felony in their building had guns. So, according to the red flag laws, they're allowed to just go in there with ATF authority, or like you can just send like a local precinct set of cops to go and collect the guns. And they don't have to knock, they can just bust in. No warrant, nothing. And they did it to the wrong fucking building. The wrong goddamn building. And this dude is scared. First of all, I don't know if it's his girlfriend, but there's a girl in the video. If you don't look up Daniel Shaver, it'll pop up first thing on YouTube. This dude is crawling on the ground, begging for his fucking life. He's literally crying. He's so scared. He's shaking his hands, right? And he reaches to pull his shirt back, and they just boom, 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 boom.
God damn. I think I've seen that video.
It's very...
Well,
it was a popular
so he's crawling on the floor. His shirt's, his shirt and pants are getting pulled behind him. And he's going to... Because, you don't want your bare ass on TV.
Yeah.
Bare ass on a body cam.
The dude essentially is playing Simon Says with a fucking AR pointed at his head. Like he's like,
who was it?
And he's got no idea what's happening.
Hold on.
Because he's like,
because he's done nothing wrong.
yeah.
This is
They
literally
just storm into your fucking house.
So
and blow you
Wyatt,
away.
you sent me this picture. It's going around. It's becoming famous. It's this girl. She's saying, "We live in a world where trained cops can panic, act on impulse, but untrained civilians must remain calm with a gun in their face."
Yeah.
There's definitely a lot of truth in that.
That is like.
And
Do you want to get into the Army lieutenant?
Well, I mean, so hang on, because I'll tell you, that was my big problem with Breonna Taylor case. So, I'm a libertarian. I hate no-knock warrants. I hate red flag laws. And again, like Nick said, if you kick my door in at 3 in the fucking morning, I'm coming out with a shotgun. I don't care who you say you are. I don't care what happens, because someone just kicked my fucking door in at 3 o'clock in the morning. I've got a wife and daughter.
Yeah. That shotgun's for people I don't know coming into my house.
Yeah, there's a sign on my front gate that said, the AR-15s for when you come on uninvited.
yeah.
Like, don't fucking kick. Like, what are you doing kicking? Like, and I get, like, there's drug busts and stuff like that. But like,
Here's
for
the
random
Here's the
people-
problem now. Criminals are claiming they're cops now. They'll dress and claim like cops to get into your house.
Because people just let them in. Because,
Yeah.
I mean, like, you can't not let a cop in if they tell you to come in.
I can't.
Yeah, you can't fucking get a warrant.
So,
Try it. Ask Breonna Taylor how it worked out.
So,
like,
like-
they can just kick in.
So like they'll go and say, "Hey, ma'am, there's a
Hell,
felon out for a loose. Would we like to come and search your house?" And most people say, "Yeah, we got no one in here," and then they'll just rob you point blank. So I don't blame people who are like, this is say LAPD. It's like, how do I know that's LAPD? 3 o'clock in the morning. All I hear is my door getting kicked in.
Yeah.
Yeah. No,
And
absolutely.
But I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Your point with Breonna Taylor.
No, that's my entire
Yeah,
point.
yeah.
Like, you're gonna kick my door in at 3 o'clock in the morning, and of
Should-
course they said they knocked. The neighbor said they heard him knock and shit like that. But so White's pointed out they were asleep. Like, if I'm asleep and you kick my door in, I'm coming up violently
Yeah.
because someone just again broke into my house.
I say you got to knock pretty loud to wake
So-
me up.
Should the cop have been held accountable
Yes.
in the Breonna Taylor case?
So they were serving
Civilly,
they were
they-
serving an actual warrant on her boyfriend, which
Ex-boyfriend.
still living with her,
No.
sleeping in the same bed.
Wrong. No. See, this is how mistakes happen.
Oh no, that's right. That's right. It was the wrong. They
Haven't
went to-
dated for 6 months. They've been 6 months separated.
Yeah. It was one of the last known addresses of him, and they
Yeah.
served a warrant on like all 5 of the addresses at the same time.
Yeah.
So it's really fucked up what happened to Breonna Taylor, but they were serving a warrant looking for a felon. Like I said, I can't blame the boyfriend for coming up guns blazing
And
either.
I want the cop held responsible.
I just,
You go in kicking in doors. I mean, to me, it's the same as
but see, the
as
problem
the
is
one case.
the problem is that's legal. I would that's on the books, okay for cops to do. I would rather change the law because you're gonna have to prevent it from having.
You want to
It's
see?
still negligent use of a firearm.
Yeah.
But not according
If
to the law.
you did it, you would be
I'm
thrown
not
in
a
jail.
cop.
That's the problem. Is
There
that
to
I'm
arrest
getting
somebody.
at.
No. You want to know people with
Who's
too much-
not there? You're there to arrest someone who wasn't there, and you killed an innocent person. You should be thrown in jail for killing innocent people. They are not executioners for the state. They are to serve and protect.
You want to know people with too much power is game wardens. So like cops usually need a warrant. Here's what I'm gonna say is game wardens only need probable cause, and they can come on your property.
No.
They can search your guns. They can search vehicles. They can search your house. That's it.
They're-
All they have to know is like someone said, "Hey, I think they poached a deer," or they poached an animal, and they can be like, "Okay."
Are they technically law enforcement?
Yeah, game
They can
wardens.
They can take your truck,
They're
your guns.
state.
They can throw you in jail.
Okay.
Yeah,
I,
they're like-
I didn't know.
They're like hypo. They're actual state. Like
Oh,
a
I
game
got
warden
you.
can arrest you anywhere.
Yeah,
I got you. I
Yeah.
understand. Okay.
So it's like those people. All they need is probable cause, and they
Yeah.
can just come and do whatever they want,
Mhm.
and you can't stop them.
But you don't think the cop who killed Breonna Taylor should be...
It's a difficult situation.
Okay, how about... Have you seen the
I would
Shaver
again
case?
I would rather see the law change because what he was doing was actually permissible by law. The fact that the people weren't in the house, that's bad. Like, you needed better info if you're gonna like storm in somebody's fucking house. And again, like they were serving it on 5 different locations.
Right.
Like, so that's what's fucked up. Like, if you're gonna storm into someone's house at 2 a.m, maybe make sure it's the right fucking house. Just like on the other case y'all are talking about.
Yeah.
Like,
well, so that cop wasn't punished.
for
Daniel
Daunte Taylor?
No, for Daniel Shaver.
So that's fucked up.
Okay, yeah. See, that's the problem. That's the thing I'm trying to get at here, is that they shouldn't be immune. They shouldn't be immune from these things.
Right, and I think we can pretty much all agree on that. Like, you shouldn't... Like, so cops have to be held to a higher standard, because we're giving them power over individual citizens.
Right.
Like, so if they have power over me, they need to be held to a higher standard than me.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I understand they're also doing a job that I'm not doing, but you can't just shoot people. Like, it's not okay.
No, I agree, and that's what I'm saying. Like, you can't just shoot people and get away with it, you know. And that's kind of what happens in a lot of scenarios, though.
Right.
So this is one of the things, like the Breonna Taylor case and the Daniel Shaver case. On a stat sheet, it's just one out of however many, probably hundreds of millions of altercations with police that happen in a year. Okay, that's still, you know, like, even if one cop just shoots one innocent person a year, like, I don't care if it's not reflective of the data. You have to let the cop go. You know?
It's still a problem.
Right.
And like I said, so I think we started off by saying, like, I don't think this is an epidemic. Like, this isn't happening all the time. It's just the age of information makes it feel like that.
Yeah. So whenever
there's like 50 million police altercations in a year.
Oh, I figured it would have been a lot higher.
Yeah, there's 50 million interactions. And only like a handful of those even turn violent. And the ones that do turn violent, only so many of those are...
Right.
Like, shouldn't have... Like, people can look at and be like, oh, should that have gotten violent? No, sometimes it's a guy shooting an AR-15 at a cop. And it's like, okay, I get it, shoot him. Like,
I saw one body cam video, and this guy, I don't know what he was tweaked out on, but he had a knife. He's coming at a cop, and the cop is warning him, saying, I'm about to use lethal, And he goes, lethal, and he starts shooting him. Guy keeps coming at him. He's getting shot. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, I can't remember what drug they said he was on, and he's laughing at the cops. He's laughing at him.
PCP.
It's PCP.
He's laughing, and he's holding a knife, and he just keeps going. And he finally gets shot in the head, and he finally crosses over.
Yeah.
So that's why we go for headshots, ladies and gentlemen.
So PCP, it cancels a lot of your nerve endings temporarily. So you can shoot somebody, you can crack ribs and break bones, but they don't feel the pain. So they may like limp and stuff, but that's not because they're in pain. It's because their body literally can't.
Yeah, it's like, you shot through my femur. I can't use this.
Right. But as far as like pain, they're not going to stop and scream like a normal person would. And PCP, like, it really turns you violent. Like,
yeah.
If a dude's on PCP, I understand using force.
I mean, if a dude's on any kind of drugs, I understand. Like, if he's violent, so I think that's going to be the crux of where we need to come to, is how do we limit immunity for cops while still having them able to use the force they need to arrest some of these criminals?
So the problem is, I understand why most cops are cautious. There was I don't remember if y'all saw, there was a famous video that went around and said, you want to know why cops never stand in front of doors? So she knocks on the door, and the guy opens it, and he comes out with a gun and starts shooting in front. And the one guy's got to basically drop to the ground, pull out her pistol, and return fire. And he goes, this is why at night cops are on edge the most.
Well, cops want to go home too. They're doing a job.
Yeah, but it's like, you want to know why cops are on edge at night most of the time? Is because this. This is why when they go to houses at night, they don't stand in front of doors. They stand to the side. It's like, there's a pattern to it, but a lot of cops don't do it.
Well, and see, so like Live PD used to have, like when Live PD was still on, which, God, I hate AMC for getting rid of it, because I really like Live PD.
I love Live PD.
But
kids stole
they used to show, like, all the time, like, cops would get the routine traffic stop on the side of the highway, they'd walk up to the window, get blown the fuck away. They did it live one time, and they were like, shit.
There was one that they did live body cam, and it was the middle of the street, and it was just a routine, like, dude, what are you doing? He just pulls out a gun and starts firing at the cops.
Yeah.
Hits one of them, and you just see people on the other side of the road just book it behind cars. Mm-hmm. And they shoot the guy, and he goes, dude, you hit? He goes, I got hit twice.
Yeah, so cops put up with a lot of shit. A lot of stuff that they don't need to put up with. So,
especially in today's time.
I don't think vilifying cops is necessarily the best way to go about it. No, because all you're doing is you're just making the good cops pissed off because they're being associated with the bad cops.
Well, like, I can't remember, this one lady cop, she went to go to McDonald's after work. Mm-hmm. And she pulls up, she pays, and she pulls up to the window, and the guy goes, hey, don't eat this. Because they were in the back, and they put something in it. He goes, I don't know what they did to it. Don't eat this. And she goes, I just wanted something to eat after work. That's all I wanted.
Yeah, the fact that you can walk into Starbucks as a cop and they will openly tell you that they won't serve
Like,
you,
get fucked
and
pigs.
that's okay. Like this, hate only breeds more hate. This is going to be the most hippie shit you ever hear me say on this podcast.
But it's
but
true.
hate never beats hate. Only love can do that. To quote MLK, hate can't beat hate.
Our grandpa's
only
biggest thing was never
love
hate someone,
can
to
do
kill them
that.
with kindness. He goes, the best thing to do at church was someone he knew he hated. He just he'd reach out for a handshake, and you had to shake his hand back.
I don't think I don't think he hated anybody. I think people who hated him, he just treated nice.
Right.
Exactly. It's like, he goes, because you're in the middle of church and you don't shake an old man's hand.
Right.
You a piece of shit.
Yeah.
Right. No.
And that's how we would beat him, because you can't openly say no to a guy.
Now I understand righteous anger.
Yes.
Right. And like there's a good reason to be pissed off. Like when that Breonna Taylor case came back, and they came back that, you know, the cop did nothing wrong after admitting in a civil case that what he did was wrong, and then also admitting that he negligently used a firearm. Like, if you're going to admit that you negligently used a firearm, but you're going to also say that it didn't directly lead to the death of somebody, like, I'm sorry, you just lost the argument for me. And
Yeah.
I understand rightfully getting pissed about that.
So there is a difference. I'm going to touch on this. So there is a difference between righteous anger, like indignation, like we are. Like, so I'm pissed off that cops are being let off from charges that they shouldn't be. All right, but I'm not looting my local Walmart and burning down my neighborhood.
Yeah, so destroying your community
No, I'm asking for
only
reforms.
hurts your community.
Yeah.
Now, what would you say to somebody who says that that's apparently the only way people fucking listen?
That's ridiculous. I mean,
So?
we're listening. We're having a discussion about
Fucking
it.
Gandhi
The
did
problem
pretty
is, you
good.
want to have a discussion, like,
But they're trying to get people in power to listen.
I don't think that's helping when you burn down their city.
yeah. So it's not so. Just because of COVID, like 40% of small businesses closed are never going to open again.
Mm-hmm.
The ones that are still open, you're burning them down and looting. This fucker had nothing to do with Chauvin or Floyd, and you're looting and burning the store.
My favorite thing is, it's this old black man. He's run this convenience store for his whole life.
Yeah,
they burned it down. He goes, why you burn my business? Why keep food out of my mouth? Because you mad at the white man? Burn their stuff. Quit burning your own shit.
Well, honestly, you shouldn't.
you shouldn't
white
be
shit.
burning shit.
But I understand what you're
it's like
saying.
they're
from his
burning.
point.
They're just hurting themselves more.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, you're
It's
only
like-
hurting yourself.
It's like getting burned, being mad, and sticking your whole hand in the fire. It's like you did nothing to
Right.
solve the problem.
Now it does sound a little crazy, but they do have a point. Since they've been rioting nonstop, a lot of police accountability has happened because of their riots. So, like
people are going to lose their
body
shit.
cams were a minority thing, and now they're becoming ever more prominent.
Oh, body cams were
It won't
a
be
thing
a-
for a while.
Well, I know why we have body cams, and I know we've only had body cams for less than 10 years.
Yeah.
So they're
Well,
very new.
mandated body
Yeah.
cams.
Well-
California's had them for a while.
Right. So, I forgot where I was going with this. Do we want to talk about the lieutenant? Because
Yeah, that's.
I mean, so we can talk. That goes to like you can't civilly sue a cop because he's trying to right now. He's trying to civilly sue that.
well,
cop.
it happened
and
a year ago.
Did it really?
Yeah, the footage just released because they were fighting about it in court. But this happened a year ago.
so.
Wow.
Who wants to talk about it?
Garrett, I'll let you take over.
Oh shit. Well, I don't remember his name, but he's a lieutenant in the army, and so he gets pulled over because the cop says he doesn't have a tag. So it's a brand new.
Yeah, it's a brand new car, and if you don't know, they'll give you a tag that
It's
only
temporary.
Temporary paper tag. It's good for a month after purchase,
Yes.
so you can go and pay your title tax, get the title, get the paperwork, get your tag.
It doesn't run, when the police run it. It doesn't run it as an actual tag.
Yeah.
It doesn't
Because it's just got a month and a day and a
Yeah.
year. Like it's not a permanent.
It's a tag, but it's not a tag.
So it wasn't hanging where it's supposed to. Most of the time, it goes over your license plate. He had it hanging in the back window. All right, that's not. I'm not splitting hairs here. That doesn't make it okay. To
I
pull
see
him
people
over.
do that with real tags. They just put it in the back of their window.
Well, and really, it's not him being pulled over that I got a problem with. It's so the guy decides he's driving down the highway or something. It's dark, and he decides, wow, I don't really want to pull over on the side of a dark highway. I'm going to go for, another minute and a half, 2 minutes?
Mm-hmm.
It's like a mile or so. And he pulls off in, is it a convenience store?
No, it's a gas station.
It's a convenience store.
So here's the problem. He puts his hazards on to show people he's not trying to get away. He puts his hazards on and he just drives.
Drives under the speed limit.
Yeah, he makes sure the cop.
Speeding, by the way.
Yeah, just make sure the cops behind him. He know and they know.
Yeah, they pulled him over for the tag.
Right. So that just so the cops know he's not trying to get away. He just wants to go into a well-lit area to see what's going on.
In his mind, that's what it's going
but
on.
in the cop's mind, it's probably something shady.
So in his mind, the guy just did an interview on Tucker Carlson, but he's a black police officer. I think he was a police chief for a while. But he comes on, he's like, if you don't pull over immediately, the cops now treat this as a felony, as a felony stop.
Mm-hmm.
So
it's like
that's
resisting arrest.
Just some more context. Like originally there was only one cop. When he kept driving, there were two now because this is now a felony stop. We have to bring another cop in because we're suspecting that you're trying to drive away for something else. We don't know if you're stashing drugs. We don't know if you're getting a gun ready. Anyway.
So how did they start the altercation? So now they're parked at a well-lit gas station.
Guy's hands outside the window.
Lieutenant, I think his name is Nazzaro. I know his last name. So he's recording on his phone. How did the police start the altercation?
Oh, it's super. So one cop, you can hear him in the background of the video, and he's like how I would expect a cop to act.
No.
The one in question.
How did they step out of the vehicle?
Oh, guns drawn.
Guns drawn.
Guns on him. Like
okay.
What? And
then the conversation. What did they say? The one cop.
The one cop is you can hear him in the background of the video, and he's
what's his name? Go ahead.
The one cop, you can hear him in the background of the video, and he's acting like a cop.
Mm-hmm.
You would expect him.
Yeah,
he's still got a gun drawn on him.
Right.
But he's being reasonable, and he's trying to de-escalate the situation. Now, the main cop you're going to hear when you look him up, this dude is hopped up on something. Dude, he got to be doing roids. Because he is just angry.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he's spewing phrase like, you're going to ride the lightning, or you done fucked up, boy, and...
Karin Nazzaro is his name, is the lieutenant's name.
I thought it was Nazzaro.
Yeah.
So the guy, how did the... So that's how they...
So
there were two cops there. One's younger, one's clearly older. The younger guy... He's reasonable. He's like, hey, just get out of your car. We'll tell you what's going on.
We'll communicate with you.
The other guy is like, you got his order wrong at McDonald's, and he didn't get his workout, and he got nothing but creatine in him.
Yeah,
he's screaming.
He's angry.
And he's got a gun in his face. He's pointing the gun, and the guy goes, honestly, I'm scared for my life. And he goes, you should be.
Yeah, that's what gets me.
And he goes, you're fixing to ride the lightning.
He's got a gun pointed at his face, and he's got his hands. The lieutenant now has his hands out of the window, and he says, I'm scared to get out of my vehicle right now. And the cop with the gun pointed at his face says, you should be.
See, that's terrible. And that's awful.
So like, the other thing is that he said, you're going to ride the lightning.
Oh, and
that does not mean taser. That means electric chair.
Okay, it does not mean electric chair. We don't fucking electric chair people anymore.
No, so the term ride the lightning means to get electrocuted.
Or be executed by the state.
Yeah.
Damn.
That's the term to ride the lightning.
You never heard that, for real?
No, I mean, we had a discussion about it over text.
It does not mean you're going to get tased. It means you're going to die.
Taser means taser.
Ride the lightning means you're going to see whatever God you believe in.
Right.
Damn.
Yeah.
Well, so anyway, this guy gets out. Well, he finally gets out, and he's being reasonable. Now, you can make the argument, and I have made the argument, like, look, it's not his place to ask what's going on.
Hold on, look context. Before he gets out of the car, he gets pepper sprayed like 6 times.
Yeah.
Are you serious?
Yeah. The cop goes, he goes, you know what? He goes, he puts his gun up, he grabs his taser, he goes, stand. He tells the other cop, stand back, stand. And starts pepper. He goes, 1, 2, 3, stops. He goes,
oh, if you're counting the short bursts.
So like, it's like 6 times
for a long
direct hits to his eyes like twice.
Yeah.
So he can't see, and he's keeping the whole time hands outside the window.
So you pepper sprayed a dude sitting in his car?
Yes.
And then
and he's in full military uniform.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. That's the thing.
This is an active duty
lieutenant. Just got off base, kind of like uniform, like he just left.
He's wearing his full military fatigues, his full guard. He's in military gear. Like he's very clearly in the military.
And typically, how the person's dressed isn't really relevant to how the arresting officer behaves. But this is he's wearing military fatigues. Veterans are among the most respected people in our society, and he's still coming at him with this level of hostility.
The one cop said, I'm a veteran too, so you should know that...
Yeah, he starts saying, like, you've received an order, boy, and it's like, are you fucking active?
So, like, they pepper spray him. The only time he ever moves his hand is to block his eyes from the pepper spray. And he goes, keep your hands out.
Shoot it.
He goes, keep your hands out the window. Unbuckle your seatbelt. He goes, I can't see.
Yeah, that's another thing. There's conflicting orders coming from the different cops.
And he goes, can you? He goes, I'm gonna keep my hands here. You unbuckle my seatbelt. He goes, unbuckle your seatbelt. He goes, if I move my hands, you're gonna shoot me.
Right. So he ends up he opens the door first. And then he unbuckles his seat slow as he could, because the cop is playing Simon Says with a handgun pointed at his head.
Right.
He's telling me
the level of fucking coming from that cop is what would have made me nervous.
The other cop was being reasonable. He's like, dude, just get out the car. He goes, we'll talk to you. What's going on?
How the fuck do you hear the reasonable one over, you get out of the fucking car, I'm gonna blow your goddamn brains out.
Yeah, it's like,
shit, alright, hang on.
Probably what saved his life is his military training. The ability of him to stay calm there and not freak out.
Everyone who watches like, dude, he's like, that's a well-trained man right there. Mm-hmm. To be that calm, to be that collective.
It's absurd. Like, a lot of... And I tried to look and be like, man, this is, maybe the cops acting, I do try to give cops the benefit of the doubt, because they have a hard job, and they put up with shit that you and I just don't have to do. But I cannot get behind the level of energy that dude brought.
I was fixing to say, you were very different over the podcast as you were over the text about this scenario.
Yeah.
Because we went back and forth for probably close to an hour and a half on this one issue, and I was just like, what the fuck?
No, and... That's, like I said, I really do respect police officers, and I know they've got... That's why I was saying earlier, like, we've got to find a compromise where we can give them the ability to handle the criminals they have to handle safely, and then we have to limit them enough to not feel like they're not accountable for their actions.
It's so hard, because think about it.
That's the line we have to tap dance on.
So I have bosses at my work that are clearly power hungry. This is the first time they've ever had some sort of power.
Yeah.
And they abuse the shit. I've been threatened to be fired like 10 different times from people.
Yeah.
But the higher up manager goes, he did nothing wrong. He's done nothing. What are you going to fire him for? Doing his job? He's loading a truck.
Right.
How are you going to fire him for that?
Right.
Yeah. And
it's like for the mind, like, oh, your gloves weren't on the right way, or...
So we're trying to find, like, the balance spot where you can have a cop who can rightfully defend himself if his life is threatened, but also can't abuse the power he has without being held accountable.
Right.
Which way do you think right now we're skewed? Do you think cops have...
cops are unaccountable.
Cops have...
unaccountable.
Yeah.
Okay, so
they
we
have too much
skew
power.
A little bit in the direction of we gotta get them...
Not all, but I feel like some think that badge is really a crown.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they can just
do what they please. And if you're a good cop, I don't want you to think we hate you. For God's sakes, you put up with a lot of shit.
I've met
you get a bad rap. Most cops I've met are good cops.
They're great people.
They're just...
Like I said, there's a bunch of dickheads that associate themselves with the badge, and we can't let the dickheads walk because you're a nice guy.
Right. So...
So
do we have any other, like, specific issues of cops we would like to get into before we discuss, like, solutions to this problem?
I mean... I don't think so. Not right off the top of my head. These are the two. We've covered the two most recent.
Right, and like we'll do an entire podcast over the Floyd scenario and trial. So we're not gonna go over him.
And I mean, I guess we could go over Rashard Brooks.
That one was fucked up, but we may disagree on that one.
Is it the one with the knife? Is Rashard Brooks?
He was the one that... No, that's Jacob Blake.
Was that
we can talk about Jacob Blake.
Who's the one who ran to his car to get a gun and they shot him?
No, it wasn't a gun. It was a knife, but that was Jacob Blake.
Yeah, and he got shot. He's still alive.
So... Give us the background on what he was... Because there was a lot before, like, the footage came out. Because this police department doesn't have body cams.
So Jacob Blake?
Yes.
So, naturally, and this is another thing, this is why I don't want to cover the Chauvin trial yet, is a lot of people are just like, they look at a video clip, like a 10, 20-second clip of an interaction between cops, and they're like, oh, well, shit, I can't believe it. And you don't see the 15, 20 minutes before this interaction that led up to the shooting of the person. Well, so Jacob Blake was actually a convicted rapist. Mm-hmm. And it was a year, maybe even 6 months, but
it was a restraining order. The girl
had a restraining order, and when he was arrested, the whole reason the cops had even gotten called was because he showed up at the woman he'd raped's house and was attempting to steal her car keys and rape her again. Is the whole reason the cops got called. So then they come up there, they start interacting with him, and he starts getting aggressive. And it's basically because Floyd had just been killed. And they're like, you ain't gonna do nothing to me. Like, what, you want this city to burn? And I'm like, you can't hear what he's saying, but that's the attitude he has. He's acting like he's bulletproof.
He is talking a lot of smack and walking away. So that it's not at this point they have guns drawn, but they do eventually draw guns on him to tell him to, like, hey, you need to comply. Because, like, at this point, he's, like, getting close.
He's basically giving him the finger.
He's giving him the finger. He touches the cops a few times.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah.
So
he's not trying to de-escalate the situation.
Right, right. And what actually got him shot was he went to his car, and there's he's hollering at him the whole time, like, you better fucking quit it. You better fucking... And then he reaches in, and he reaches into the floorboard. And at the time, we didn't know what he was doing. Like, it may have looked like he could have been just getting in his car, which a lot of people were like, oh, you shot him trying to get into his car. Well, that's not exactly what happened, but...
Right.
Come to find out, so he's actually still alive.
He's just paralyzed.
He's paralyzed.
Right.
Which, you know, honestly, you're a rapist. I hope you can't feel anything from the waist down. Like,
Yeah.
that sounds like God's justice to me. But... So the cop shot him. Come to find out, he was actually reaching for a knife in the floorboard.
Right.
And, like, I honestly totally justified shooting.
Yeah.
Like, in my mind, the whole interaction when you see the tape, like, that dude's acting like you're not going to do anything.
The cops gave him several opportunities to, you know, de-escalate, calm down. And I'm not even the guy that's saying you got to be totally compliant with the police. But if you reach into a van that they don't know what's in there...
You go to the back seat
and you reach for a knife... Like, what? I mean, just what the fuck is the cop supposed to do?
Yeah, Let you stab him before they put a bullet in you?
Like, he goes to the back seat, he's reaching in a floorboard. Cop doesn't know what he's pulling out. They're on high alert right now.
Like, would it
I don't blame them. Because
no.
What if he pulls out a gun and shoots one of the cops?
Would it have been ideal to just restrain him and not paralyze him? I mean, absolutely. But, I mean, given everything that we know up until that point, like... I'm not saying deadly force was necessary, but some force was definitely necessary.
Yeah, and you can't approach a suspect with a weapon you don't know about.
Right.
Like, you can't come put him in a chokehold because he fucking stabbed you, like...
Right, and now the thing that did get to me was his kids were in the car.
Yeah.
And that's...
No, there's the problem. He wasn't supposed to have those kids.
Yeah.
He took the kids from the woman.
Yeah.
Oh. Was the whole thing.
For real. I didn't know this.
He would literally...
He was trying to take the car keys
to
get away with the
woman
kids.
had a restraining order on him, and she hassled with the kids, so that he couldn't do within the kids. He came there, took her car keys, took the kids, put them in the car, and was going back for her. Was the whole thing. And I can't remember who called the... I think it was a neighbor?
I can't remember.
Called the cops
and
said, this guy, he's taking kids.
But as far as, like, that is the worst scenario that Black Lives Matter could have pulled, was the Jacob Blake scenario.
And they did. And that's what I was about to get to, is like, you just got George Floyd, and you just got...
George Floyd,
Rayshard Brooks. And these are all, debatable cases. But then you start defending Jacob Blake, and it's like, oh, you lost me now. Like,
right.
Once you've seen the whole clip, and that's the thing, like, they always focus on, like, well, they shot him in front of his kids, and this, you don't even know what he was reaching for, and this, that, the other. And then you actually find find the full evidence, and you're like, yeah, okay. I shot him.
Did you see the leader of the... Like, the lead girl of BLM bought a $1.4 million house.
Yeah. In a 90% white neighborhood.
Wait, it gets better. It gets better.
Better than 90% white?
The New York Post posted another article about it. You couldn't share it on Facebook or Twitter.
Wow.
Yep, could not. If you tried to do it, I think right now even.
I saw one article, and within 5 minutes it was gone.
At the date of this podcast,
which is 4/16?
4/16. You cannot post the link on Facebook. And it's just crazy to me that's the thing. But back to the thing. So the Rayshard Brooks one is a little hazy, because the dude
I don't think he's hazy at all. Like nah.
Rayshard Brooks or Jacob Blake.
Oh, Rayshard. Yeah, sorry, didn't realize.
Yeah, so Jacob Blake, I'm not.
No, that guy. Probably shouldn't have been.
And
I'm not gonna say he shouldn't have been shot. You reach for something the cop doesn't know.
7 times is a bit excessive, but at the same time, like, I don't think the cop, like.
Well, even
if it was excessive, it wasn't excessive by much.
Yeah.
Like, this is clearly like a violent
person,
right?
Well, so he's got a history of violence. He's acting just blatantly, and then he's trying to get in the car with his kids.
Right.
Kids
reaching for a weapon
that he's technically kidnapping right now.
Like, honestly, so and like you said, there's 7 shots. Meh. But when you go to concealed carry class, they teach you empty clip.
Yeah.
And I assume cops get taught the same thing. Like, if you're going to shoot somebody, you shoot somebody. You don't...
Yeah. So, okay. So, just a couple of more scenarios. Not to get one from way too long ago, But Tamir Rice, have y'all ever heard that name? Does that sound familiar at all?
Tamir Rice?
Tamir Rice. Was 12 years old.
Oh, was that the kid with the gun?
He had a BB gun, and the BB gun had a bright orange barrel and everything. Right.
Yeah.
So like it didn't look like a gun. A cop shot him within 30 seconds of seeing him. Didn't talk to him. And the cop was not punished. That to me, I'm just like, whoa. But that's an older case.
You shot a 12-year-old kid.
Now,
like,
have y'all seen the one that happened in Chicago? It was 2 days ago.
No, I wasn't aware that someone got shot.
It was.
I mean, people get shot in Chicago all the time.
Well, this was by a police officer. This 13-year-old kid just got a bad home life or something. He's into drugs, dealing drugs at 13 years old. At 13 years old, they're using this kid as like a mule.
That's your inner city life right there.
Well, so this kid was running. The cop nudges down the other person buying the drugs. The kid is running, and he puts his hands in the air, and the cop panics, shoots him. They found a gun like 12 feet from the kid. It's not his gun, though. It was a completely random gun behind like the fence of where they were.
That seems highly coincidental. Like,
and I'm with you, but at the same time, like the kid is clearly 13 years old.
Yeah, but again, guns are the great equalizer. Like,
no offense if a 13-year-old pulled a gun.
It's also on the
cop.
other side of a wooden fence.
See, that'd be the big thing. Like,
Yeah.
he didn't have it.
Right.
He may have been trying to get to it.
He didn't. See, now that's possible.
But he still didn't get to it, and
Like,
by not getting to it, he's a 13-year-old kid.
It could be a gun stashed away. I mean,
that's what it sounds like to me.
It could be completely hypothetical.
It could be a dead drop for him.
Right.
Like,
yeah,
you
like
know
it's a dead drop
you
gun.
know it's there, so
in case some other gangbangers pull up, you know where you got to fire on.
But he clearly stops at the opening of the fence, and he turns around. He sticks his hands in the air, and this is all on the body cam footage. And she just pow. And they can't show the actual death because it's a kid, but the last thing you can hear is the gunshot. And like I said, it was 12 feet away. And it's not technically his. We don't know whose gun it is, but it could be his. But the kid is very clearly 13 years old. Right. And those ones pain me, and those are the gray areas. I don't.
Well, so I'm gonna go.
We don't know.
I'm gonna go with, like, you know how I said earlier, like, if I see a 28-year-old fucking beefy cop manhandling an 86-year-old woman, if I see you manhandling a 13-year-old boy, I'm gonna have an issue. Like, what? I mean, again, if he's got a gun, just like the old person, if the old person's got a gun, that's different.
Yeah,
right.
Guns make things a lot different. But if he's unarmed,
right?
Like, and you just what? I mean, a grown woman could take on a 13-year-old boy.
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing?
Yeah, 13 years old. There's not a whole lot of like physically going on, right? Like it's still like it's
very early. It's very early in puberty.
Yeah,
like, he's got like a few whiskers you can just wipe off real quick.
Yeah, you're 13. You're full of piss and vinegar, but that's all you is. Like you ain't got the muscle mass to back that up.
No, you're all talk.
That one was hard to watch, and that one's not getting as high profile because of the one that happened in Minneapolis, the Daunte Wright one.
I can't believe they're not running with that, because that's a damn shame.
I had to search the bowels of YouTube to find that one because a friend of mine told me about it, and you just have to Google specifically for it, but it probably won't pop up on your feed. But the Rayshard Brooks one's a little hazy because it's an altercation where he grabs the taser of a cop, runs away, and then points the taser at him.
Yeah, you grab anything off a cop, you're at, because for all we know, he could have been reaching for the gun.
He didn't go for the holster. He went for the taser. They'd already tased him. So he pulls the taser out of the cop's hands. He did punch a cop in the face.
So we've got to get the whole story. So the whole story is Rayshard Brooks pulled up at a Wendy's in the drive-thru right in front of the ordering machine, whatever you want to call it. And he's parked there just drunk, passed out. And that's why the cops get called. Now, there's like a 20-minute interaction with him, maybe longer than that.
Yeah.
Where they're just talking to him, giving him the field sobriety test, and everything's fine. Everything, the cops are polite. He seemed drunk but polite.
Right.
And it's totally fine interaction. And then they go to put him in the car. Like, you're drunk. All right. And that's when the altercation gets violent. Yeah. And I should say, Rayshard gets violent. Right. It's not the cops that start this.
Because it turns out Rayshard did not want to get put in the cop car that night.
He did not want to go to jail.
Not for a DUI. He said, "I'd rather walk home." And he starts to walk off, and they're like, "Hey, whoa, whoa!" And they're not grabbing him in a violent way, but they're like trying to keep him there, right? So they're like, "Hey, whoa, whoa, just stay talking with me. Just stay talking."
The weird part is like you see some cops let you like a family member to come get you real quick.
Yeah.
I've never met a cop that cool.
It's not all the time, but it's like clearly it's like they're almost off work. And we're like, dude, I don't want to take you to jail.
Oh, God, I don't feel like doing this.
You got a family member? He goes, yeah, call them. I'll wait until they get here.
Yep. And so altercation happens. He throws a punch. He gets punched in the gut himself, but he throws the first punch, I believe, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Just socks the dude in the face. He grabs a taser out of one of the cop's hands, and then he starts to run off. He turns around. He's not even looking, but he turns his arm around and he shoots the taser into the air almost. It doesn't hit the cop. And the cop, at the exact same time, pulled out his gun, just
put four rounds
in his back. And his partner testified against him.
That's unheard of.
And, well, we'll get to that later, but about the whole cop testifying against cops. But
that's really fallen, which it should.
Right. Well, yeah. And so he said he shouldn't have done that because apparently tasers aren't considered lethal.
No.
So
they're only lethal to people with heart conditions.
If he hit you with that taser, is it he just keep running, or does he come back and beat the shit out of a tased cop?
Well, here's the problem.
Get his gun.
My question is: so cop usually they have their vest on.
He pulled a weapon off a cop. It's still a taser.
Well, okay, so my thing is
not quite the same thing as pulling a gun off a cop, though, right?
Not quite the same,
especially
but
whenever
he's willing to pull a weapon off a cop.
He's clearly drunk. He's very clearly running
drunk
away.
Mistakes don't count?
He's very clearly running away from the cops. He's trying to flee the scene. If you flee the scene, that doesn't mean you deserve to be executed.
But he fired a weapon at him.
The problem, but
under the state of Georgia, it's not considered a lethal weapon.
But it doesn't matter. If I threw a brick at a cop, it's not a lethal weapon, but I'd understand him shooting me. A knife at 10 feet isn't a lethal weapon, but we still are okay shooting.
No, but you still have the knife, right?
You get that 10 feet's easy to close distance.
He still got the fucking taser.
Yeah, but think about this. So
he
cops
didn't have the taser when he got shot. He dropped it after he fired it.
So cops have that vest on. That taser ain't gonna go through that vest.
Right? But he doesn't know. All he knows is he pulled a weapon off that other cop.
No, it's his taser.
Yeah, he took the guy.
So he knows it's his. Okay.
Yeah,
right.
I was about to say, if it was off the other cop, it fucking might look like a gun.
Pretty much the scenario here is, it's pretty cut and dry. The cop's probably gonna go away because
I don't know, if you pull my taser off me, shoot it at me, and you clearly miss.
So I encourage people to go look at the footage. It's not like he, turned around and shot him. The cop is probably 15 yards away, which is quite a distance.
That taser ain't gonna reach there.
Right? The taser is probably not even gonna reach
45 feet.
But here's the thing. Before he even turned around, he had already had his weapon drawn. He was shooting him regardless of whether or not he shot that taser or not. He was gonna shoot him no matter what. And he shot him in the back.
Isn't that
shooting people in the back?
Isn't that highly illegal in certain states? I don't know if it's Georgia's one of them, but isn't that
I know in Texas it's the joke is that it's illegal, but I don't know if it actually. And I'm sure.
I don't know if it's. The problem is again refer to concealed carry. You can't shoot somebody in the back.
No, you can't.
Because when you
can't unless they're attacking someone in the opposite direction.
Oh, I got it.
But once they turn your back on you, you cannot shoot them because they're deemed no longer a threat.
What is it? So
now if they're turning their back on you to roundhouse you in the face, it doesn't matter.
So with concealed weapons, you have a lot of obligation. You're supposed to de-escalate the situation, try to get away. You have to follow these steps before you can use lethal force. So if you can't de-escalate, they're following you.
You also can't.
They start getting physical. Then you can open your gun. And you're not supposed to shoot them. It's supposed to be like an intimidation, but if they start, and then you shoot them.
That's false.
No.
I know.
You cannot brandish your.
Because
it's a crime. It's called brandishing. That's what that couple did when the BLM riots.
I know what you're talking about.
The old couple got their fucking guns taken.
I said this is only for certain states. I don't know if Oklahoma has. I know in New York, there's a lot of rules before you can shoot somebody.
Yeah.
It's like a 10-step list before you can shoot somebody.
Well, I know. So if you point, you can't pull your gun. So like cops, they can pull their gun as an intimidation factor. Citizens can't do that.
Right.
If you pull a gun, it's got to be because you think your life or someone immediately around you is in danger.
And
because otherwise it's brandishing and it's a crime.
there's actually did y'all know that like legally, so we're in a constitutional carry state. Texas just became one. Actually, if y'all didn't know.
Fucking beat Texas.
Yeah, we did. We did absolutely.
again.
We're not the first though, sadly. I can't remember what state went first.
But
we're also a Second Amendment.
you don't
sanctuary state.
you don't need a license. You don't need nothing to own a firearm in Texas.
Yeah, I can carry my AR-15 just around.
Yep. And it actually may like legally hurt you in a court of law to have your license now in Texas because you're
trained.
Because you're technically trained, right? You are expected to know these things. Versus if you don't have the license but you still can own a gun, you're not required to know about the use of force.
Well, Dad's not going to
so
renew
it's
his.
way more of a gray area.
It's
It's like okay, so we know you know better because you've got the license.
Yeah, it's
Well,
like
a bunch of people aren't renewing their license.
Yeah, they
yeah,
stopped.
fuck it. Why would I renew my license if I can open carry?
Dad did. He said he just stopped.
So it's constitutional carry, which means you can conceal or open carry. Now, our dad has had a concealed carry for a long time. But he always said, if you open carry, you're a jackass. Because all you're doing is inviting trouble.
I agree with that.
If you carry a big old 45 on your side, you're just asking for it. One, you're making yourself a target. So if I walk in and I'm going to commit a mass shooting, and I see you've got a sidearm, you're number one.
Mm-hmm. And not to go ahead and finish.
But so and I agree with that. No, I'm not saying like anyone who open carries is a jackass. Really, I'm just saying like I don't personally open carry. I conceal. I keep it in my jeans. I keep it in my car. I keep it, and that's just because I want to walk around with protection. But I don't need the unnecessary invite.
Right.
Yeah.
You know.
And not to stay on guns for too much, but I think concealed carry like that has saved a huge amount of lives. Like that church in Texas. Have y'all ever seen that footage?
Oh, there's a new ad going around with the two guys saying, "Remember us?" Now you probably forgot. We're the two guys in the church.
Oh, in Texas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're doing ads now.
Well,
good
For the
dude just
constitutional carry.
absolutely like pulled his gun out at the drop of a hat. Just reaction time like a freaking like he's been a vet for 40 years.
Yeah.
I think he did
insanely
he did
fast.
like
instinct
sports shooting,
Just
where he just goes.
Minimize the scenario was great, but back to cops.
Well, I do want to touch on that. So I think anyone who does carry a gun needs to carry it responsibly. Like I'm gonna get that. So practice good trigger discipline. Be experienced with your firearm. We can touch more on that, but like if you're not experienced with your firearm, then carrying around does almost no good. No. If it's gonna take all 12 clips for you to hit the guy once, you're gonna still get shot.
Yeah.
But anyway, all right. Back on.
Also, know if your gun has a safety, because some don't, and you might shoot yourself accidentally.
A lot of cops get shot that way.
Yeah, we're like you
walking hot.
Our dad's got one that doesn't have a safety, and
none of mine do.
And if there's one round in there, and you go to pull it out, and you bump that trigger, it's a hair trigger, and it will go off and blow a hole in your leg.
That's how.
Right through your femoral artery too.
To the NFL fans, that's how Plaxico Burress went to jail. NFL player walking around with a gun without a safety. He just tapped it wrong, did something, and boom, and they took him to jail.
That's why I don't like hair triggers.
It's negligent use of a firearm. If you shoot yourself in the leg, it's negligent. Apparently, they threw his ass in jail for it.
Yeah, because it's a discharge of a firearm.
That's true. It's a discharge. You can't shoot a firearm in the street at nothing.
Pennsylvania, I think, at the time.
Oh, that's not a Midwest state. But
like technically, not supposed to shoot in your yard just randomly.
Well, you can outside the city limits.
So just shooting it at the ground, not supposed to do that apparently.
Yeah.
And outside in certain states you can't.
So
just shoot at the ground.
Have we established that there is at least somewhat of a problem that needs to be fixed as far as okay.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty on board with that. Like we've got a power problem with cops.
So now as far as solutions
Some
go.
Cops.
Correct.
I would like to see a percentage, but we'll probably never get one.
No,
but I would like to see a study. I'd like to see a publicly funded study into cops.
Unions will fight it. The police unions will fight it.
I would love to see the disbandment of
they'll be like
cop unions.
They'll be like McConnell and filibuster, damn it.
Unions, I think, serve a good purpose with cops. Before their pensions were nothing. There was really no point in being a cop before the unions came around.
And you didn't
get health benefits, you didn't get dental, you didn't get hazard pay, you didn't get nothing.
That's shit.
But because of unions, they have it. But now unions have, I think, they're doing a lot of harm to their own people. Because now it's making it to where anyone can be a cop, and anyone can be a cop is a problem.
Yeah, there needs to be a high standard.
So
there needs to be a high. Yeah, I would agree with you.
So this next study is going to come out of Camden, New Jersey, which at the time was the 5th, as far as city-wise, 5th highest death rate, murder rate per capita in the entire United States.
Damn.
5th, yeah. About 70,000 people. It's not very big. It's about the size of Moore, Oklahoma.
So just 70,000 people just murdering each other all the fucking time?
Well, here's what they did. This is where body cams were from. Body cams started because of this place. Here's what they did. So you got to wear a body cam. You have to do, for the first year in the precinct, you have to do 60 hours of community service a month.
Hmm?
You got to know your community.
Yeah,
you got to give
that's
back
important.
to the community.
Yeah, you got to know the community.
And
you're
I
gonna
think
be
that
running.
would go a long way. I wouldn't necessarily make them do 60 hours a month, but do something to know.
Familiarize yourself with the people you're serving.
I think the reason all this shit doesn't happen in small town America is because you know the people.
Yeah, it's like
right?
then where you got 2 sheriffs there. It's like small towns, they know everybody.
They demilitarized, so they still carry firearms. But there is you had better have a goddamn good reason to pull out your firearm from that point on. They disbanded all their cops, fired all of them. Police chief, everything. They started from scratch with this new police department. So because they started from scratch, they set up new handbooks, use of force. So from 1 year, they had 65 complaints about excessive force. And then 2 years after this new policy set in, they had 4 in 1 year. And then since then, they've had under 10 since then. So this is about a decade.
Just cut by
a lot.
6. Yeah.
Over, several percent decrease. And it's because they told the cops, look, we are here to help the community. Now, granted, it doesn't have 1 million people in it. It's a small town relative, right?
I was still saying that's worse. Small
But
population with a high percentage.
They took a legit contender for the murder capital, and now it doesn't even make the list anymore. So they're worried more about giving back to the community.
Well, I think it would go a long way to remind people they are here to protect and serve.
Yeah,
right.
And I know that good cops, they are here to protect and serve. It's just
so the hiring process was more of less about how good could you shoot and more about a morality type thing.
Right. I could teach you how to shoot. I can't teach you to be a decent person.
Yeah.
Right. And so the selection process was, and they had less cops, but at the end of the day, they would rather have less cops and better cops, right?
Yeah.
So that's what I mean. If you.
So there's certainly strategies that at least work on a small scale. Now, is that going to work in New York?
No, we don't know.
Or Chicago?
I don't think disbanding
so
the
as far
police
as
force is a good idea.
So as far as
they could phase people out.
So as far as that's what they did. They didn't do that. They just cut from scratch. They didn't have a police department for 6 or 7 weeks.
Now, how much did crime go up?
Well, apparently not very much because remember after the police got back.
So when crime rates go up, you have to have it reported to a police officer.
So there's no one.
There's no one to report it to.
Right.
So it's.
Right. It's the purge.
It gets fucky.
It's the purge for 6 weeks.
It's an odd question, but
I just imagine they just left some intern there.
Nationally, as far as nationally, we could do a registry. Do you know how many police departments there are, or law enforcement in general?
No idea.
There's 18,000, and they're all independent. So different cities and police departments, they have their own handbook, which is their own standard. Which means that if you fuck up according to the playbook, there's at least some legal shield there. So there's not a state standard or a federal standard, which, you probably could.
So each department has their own.
So if you, even if you just did it by state basis, I think that would be better. Because then nobody could say you weren't trained, right? Well, in, small town America, where their training budget is $500 a year... what are you going to do?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I could probably get behind, mandating a state-by-state handbook.
Yeah. Yeah, just give them something. It shouldn't be precinct by. I mean, this is literally 18,000 different handbooks,
different how-tos,
right?
And that's ridiculous.
Right. It's hard to we got to get a standard going, right?
Yeah.
And like I said, I would prefer it be state by state, but that's just.
Well, I mean, given they're state police officers, I wouldn't have. A problem with it.
There's different state laws too.
Yeah.
Right.
Like you need to. So I think that would be. I mean, I'm totally behind that. And then as far as your registry, I've talked to a buddy of mine who actually advocates for the registry. And he's like, that way, if a cop gets, he's got so many complaints on him for excessive use of force, or he's been taken to court or whatever, some of these cops, once they get, acquitted, they go and they just join up with a precinct 4 miles down the road. Mm-hmm. And it's like, that would prevent that from happening. Ideally, now, they could still hire them if they're on a registry,
right.
But...
So this next one is a bit culturally, but so if you've ever studied law in any aspect, you know that cops don't testify against cops.
Yeah.
It's called the blue wall of silence. They just don't. Even in the Rodney King one in the 90s, no cops testified. And that's shitty. The fact that now, I mean, not to talk too much about the Chauvin trial, I mean, we've got 9 members of the MPD testify against him. I mean, it's at least it's getting better.
Yeah.
The fact that police are feeling like they can voice their interpretation is at least getting better. This problem is becoming better. It's no longer now. Yeah. Film has a lot to do with that too.
Yeah, and the information age. You're even if you're not held accountable. You should be held accountable by the court system. If you legit did something wrong. Because I don't want vigilante justice either. Just because I don't like what a cop did, I'm going to find out his name, address, and go beat the crap out of him or storm in his house. That's not cool. Mm-hmm. We got a process we got to shore up and make sure they go through the process like everybody else.
Yeah.
With honestly, like I said before, even a little bit higher standard. Because you've been given power. So
what would you say to someone who says that'll create less cops?
I mean, it's got to create less cops.
What do you?
That's what I said. You got to find a balance.
Will it create better cops?
And that's fine to me. If I needed to build a bridge and I needed engineers, right? I don't see the scarcity of engineers and then lower the standard. No, I need to build a goddamn good bridge. I need the good engineers. You don't lower the standard for being an engineer.
But then when there's a scarcity of people who want to do it. So what do you do in high crime areas like Chicago?
What you got. You deal with what you got. That's what you're
So then crime rates rise in your city, though. So Chicago, if you start firing, let's say... And I'm not saying bad cops should keep their job, but let's say you raise the standard to the point where, you have you have all good cops. Let's say 100% good cops. But you've cut your force by 50%. With the gang violence going on in Chicago,
you just have to.
I would rather have 50 good cops than 100.
So you'd rather deal with
100 with 50 of them be bad.
Right.
Oh, I mean, that's fair, and honestly, that's agreeable. I don't.
Right.
I don't want less cops on the street, but I want them all to be good cops. And I mean, the thing is, if you're going to reduce the force by 50%, you better let me keep my fucking guns.
You can't demilitarize the police like you can in Europe. So demilitarize means like in this sense, you're gonna have to increase the bar to use the gun, right? To use lethal force. You can't take away the gun from the cop. The citizens in this country are too armed. There's no way.
Well, I meant me specifically. You can't come after my citizens' rights as a gun if there's only 50% of the cops to protect me. So response times now are 10 minutes.
Yeah.
What happens when that's 20?
Pizza Hut gets here faster than cops do.
And I live in rural Oklahoma, so it takes a while for them to get here. But I'm just saying, what happens when that's a 20, 30-minute wait?
Right, I understand.
I'm gonna need my firearm because that criminal's not gonna wait politely at the door for the cop to show up.
Right.
So, I could get behind that as long as everybody vows to not touch my fucking guns. I can get behind a lot as long as you vow not to touch my fucking guns.
I was about to say, as long as you don't touch your guns, you'll vote for whoever at that point, right?
No, guns and abortion.
No, so what if it came down to the two? What would you choose?
You'd choose one.
I choose guns because then I could defend my position on abortion with guns.
Seems like a threat, not defend.
That seems like an attack.
Yeah.
You're not defending, you're attacking. You're
We're
the
gonna-
terrorist.
This is how you get abortion clinics shot up.
At one
Oh,
point,
speaking of that, you see
we'll probably
FedEx got
do-
shut up?
Huh?
A FedEx got shot up in Indianapolis.
For what?
Wow.
I don't remember
For
a guy.
delivering the wrong package.
No, in the warehouse, guy walked in, killed 8 people, and then committed suicide.
Sounds like an angry employee. But just right off the bat,
It's
like, why else you shooting up a FedEx? You know?
Could be a million reasons.
There's
I don't know.
like,
So-
shit.
Nick, any solutions?
No, not that come to mind. I mean, your idea is good. I mean,
This is just what
clearly-
I rattled off, and I
it
don't-
clearly
most
works
of
on a
these-
small scale, but like Garrett said, I want
Right.
to see what it do to a large scale.
I want to see what it does in Chicago. Chicago's like the most crime-ridden city in the fucking U.S.
Right.
Surprisingly, has the most
So-
strict gun laws.
Yeah, oddly enough.
So bitch.
Um,
Are you
Yeah.
wearing a fucking mask?
Me?
Yeah, you have a little mask
little
on.
neck gator.
Yeah, it's just a neck gaiter. I'm not wearing it over my face for those of y'all who can't see.
He's also the guy who wears a mask at family gatherings when it's just us.
It's a virtue signal mask. It's not an actual health mask.
It's like, look at
I
me.
am vaccinated, okay? I don't wear masks.
How'd that day?
I show up to class.
How's
not
that
wearing a
Johnson &
mask.
Johnson vaccine going for you, buddy?
Oh, sheesh. Well, it's literally 1 in a million. So if I do it, I'll be special.
Aw.
Ed.
So, okay, well,
Just as far as solution, I mean, like I said, I don't have any right off the top. But I think
yeah. So the balance I think we have to try and maintain is we have to try and keep the good cops on, and we have to. Would y'all agree with this statement? So like if you have 10 bad cops, you have 130 good cops, right? How many bad cops do you have? Just 10?
just 10.
Okay, so now what if the good cops cover up or do nothing about the bad cops?
And you have 140 bad
You have
cops.
140 bad cops. Right, okay. So that's the thing. Like, we gotta... And I feel like cops should want this, too. Like, personally, like, I don't think cops want shitty cops, either.
Because it just gives you a bad name.
'Cause
It just gets you
No,
hated.
bad apple spoils the bunch.
So if you...
Well, I don't
You
know
know.
that exactly translates, but yes.
Well, you hear one guy in a bad, say, force, or
Hey,
one department.
Yeah.
You're gonna look at that department differently now.
Right.
I guess there's the argument, like, you see the one dude who doesn't have to follow any of the rules and be like, well, why the fuck am I? putting in
Everyone
that
sees the
effort?
one asshole, but they never see the 10 good ones. The 10 good
Yeah,
guys.
because the 10 good ones are never on national TV doing
And
something bad. Like,
And I think that's what it is, to be honest with you. I think it's probably about that ratio, you know? Like 10 good cops, but the one bad one fucks up your entire reputation.
mm-hmm.
Like the Eugene Goodman guy. The guy, probably, he may have saved Mitt Romney's life at the Capitol. You know, Mitt Romney was running right towards them crazy sons of bitches. And he was like, Mr. Romney, he cussed at him. He said, you need to turn that around and you need to go the other way. And he held him off by himself for like 9 minutes or something like that. Did he get the Medal of Freedom? Does anybody know?
I don't know.
I don't know. He should. I know he got honored by the Congress, but
Save Mitt Romney.
That's not the Medal of Freedom. The Medal of Freedom goes out by the president.
yeah, I know. But I didn't know if he did.
Who was president at
Got
the
both.
time?
Trump.
Well,
It would
now-
have been Biden.
It was, no, it was at Biden at the time because it was.
January 6th when the
14,
riots
right.
happened, so
Just 2
20th when he
weeks.
took over.
But yes, there are good cops. We need to defend those cops.
And we need to enable them to use the force necessary to apprehend the people they need to.
Right now, it's going to be hazy on the lethal force side because
Now, when you say lethal force,
Now here's what you do. I have a question. So say you have one cop who's clearly violating someone's rights, and he's got a partner. Does that partner have the right to then arrest that cop for violating another person's rights?
As a civilian, if you see me drowning in a lake, you have no obligation to save me. As a civilian. As a cop,
you
have an obligation. If you see a crime happening or someone in danger, you have an obligation to stop that. So, as cop, maybe.
like
Hmm.
so like
Well-
someone's rights are clearly being violated, like excessive force. Like you're beating the shit out of this.
Like you see some cop about to literally execute some person.
cops. So there's a weird thing in cops is that you follow a hierarchy. So you don't.
Yeah, it's
You
like,
don't tell a superior, and I'm not saying that this is right, because in the military it's the opposite. If you are given like an order that you don't think you can like follow morally. You're as a cop, like it's very hard in this scenario to not follow it. Like you're definitely not supposed to talk up, but even disobeying an order, it's a
taboo,
really gray area that's taboo. But in the military, it is you can tell a superior if they give you an immoral order to go fuck off, and there's nothing they can do. They can't court-martial you.
Mm.
So that's the thing. So like in the Chauvin case, one of the cops told him to get off his neck.
Yeah.
And he, he's only been on the force a short while, and Chauvin just kind of ignores him because, like, what the fuck does he know, right?
Right. That's actually, I think, the brought up in the trial is...
I would have ripped him off of him. Ripped him off of him?
It's easy to say that from an outside perspective, but I think, like, he's fresh on the force. He doesn't want to start his career
with a black
with
mark.
an altercation with a superior. And
yeah.
And now
That's
he
the
clearly should have, but the
hindsight's 2020.
You shouldn't have that. The hierarchy about orders shouldn't exist if it's morality based.
I mean, like,
and cops should only use the correct amount of force necessary. They shouldn't have a free pass to use whatever force they want.
You don't get to jump to just straight lethal.
Yeah, and I think that's
there should
the
be
problem.
a step process.
The fact that there's no penalty for guns drawn, like when you've done nothing wrong, like that's crazy to me. But at that point, like you probably wouldn't have any cops, because cops altogether start with guns drawn more than a few times.
No, again, their brand, it's an intimidation factor. It's like, look, I've got my gun. And plus, they're at the ready. Like, if you come out spraying, they've already got their guns trained on you. Like, there are situations where that needs to be. And the problem is, if you can run into situations with just a car side stop, and say you don't come out with your gun brandished, and the dude pulls out and shoots you, like, then people are like, well, see, this is why he needs to come out with his gun drawn. He would have been able to see that gun coming, react, and shoot the guy first.
Well, this is like, I don't blame the cop that, his first week on the force, and he's heard nothing but stories about other cops getting shot at routine traffic stops at night. And he goes up to a car on the side of the road, and he's going to see what happens. All he's heard is stories about this situation and cops getting shot. He's going to be cautious going up.
Right.
And he might just pull his gun out just to be ready.
Well, that's another thing, too, is, like, when you run the plates on somebody and you see that, like, okay, this person's got a violent criminal history, like, you're obviously going to treat that different than you would if it's like, okay, it's a 50-year-old woman who's got a traffic ticket from 1970.
So the thing is that, like in the Lieutenant Nazaro case, like, the second you saw military guard and he said, this is how I'm being treated for being in the military, at that point, put the gun in the fucking holster, bro.
My whole thing is, like, perps say a lot of shit.
Yeah, I don't think...
Like, when people are getting arrested, they say a lot of things trying to avoid being arrested.
Now, I get...
Now, he's in military fatigues.
Like, I will thank him...
He probably ran it.
Well, I will thank him for his service, but I don't think that grants you immunity.
Yeah.
Like,
just because you...
That one cop was just being an asshole.
Well,
yeah. Clearly, didn't need to be like that.
Did y'all watch after they got him handcuffed?
They said don't report this or something.
They said, we're going to go for your fucking record. His military record.
Yep.
And he said, this doesn't affect me whatsoever. Like, if you want to fight and argue, we're going for your record. But if you want to, if you want to scrap this and just everybody go home, we can do that too. And, like threatening the dude's military record.
Yeah.
Like, that's... And he, first of all, he was fucking wrong. Boy, was he wrong. It came back to bite him in the ass. It took a year. But they said, no.
Well, they were focusing on other cases.
Yeah, well...
The media
The second it went public, they were like the body cam footage went public, they were like...
Can you use body cam in the... while in court? Because you can't...
Oh, yeah.
No, because, like, here's the thing. So, like, you
That's
can't...
the whole point of body cams.
You can't use cell phone recordings.
Yeah, you fucking can. They sure did in Chauvin Trial.
I was going to say, they didn't Chauvin.
I think in certain cases, but, like, certain cases, they'll dismiss it. For,
maybe, like, quality... Maybe.
Yeah.
No, because
like, I know in Chauvin's case, they've got every angle viewed. They had to watch that 10-minute altercation.
Maybe it has to be like video evidence has to be agreed upon by the prosecution.
I think
no, that can't be because then they'd never.
I know there's a certain rule, otherwise it gets thrown out of court. I can't remember what it's got to go through.
So there may be a standard to get it approved, right? But I know that at least in Chauvin's case, the standard was met.
Yeah, because they're using it. Like I promise. But all right. Is that it for us, guys?
Yep. Alright, well, we'll see y'all, and we're going to cover the Chauvin Trial when it ends.
Yeah, we are going to cover the Chauvin Trial. So the Saturday of the week it ends, we will have a podcast out for the Chauvin Trial.
Yep. So, all right. Well, thanks for tuning in. This is our 10th episode, and this has been The Refined Peasants.
Hey guys, thanks for listening. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit that little notification bell in the corner, and be sure to let us know if you guys have any ideas for what you want to see from us next. We're a new upcoming podcast. Share it with your friends if you're confident.